Hello and welcome to Now Dig This, the podcast. Today I have a special guest with me today. I have Ryan from Record Plug Magazine.
Hey.
So Record Plug Magazine is a local magazine featuring bands, artists, and what else?
It's pretty much exclusively music, but
Yeah.
it's Athens and Atlanta based music, and bands that are coming through town.
Oh, okay, cool.
Mhm.
So how do you guys get bands into your magazine?
Actually, the writers are responsible for that from the get go. They've always been that we don't assign anything.
Uh-huh.
They are whatever they're interested in. We definitely look out for bands, national acts that are coming through town, and
Yeah.
we'll hit them up directly as possible, or go through their
When you talk about like national bands, you're talking about bands that's like
someone that's playing, like here it would be like someone that's playing the Earl or maybe the
okay.
Tabernacle
Yeah.
or something like that. They're like like McCluskey came through and played the Masquerade a while back, and we're huge fans of that band, so we hit them
So they
up.
give you guys media passes and stuff like that.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, that's been kind of fun. But usually, like a lot of times, it's just like a Zoom interview. Like
Yeah.
McCluskey's from the UK, from
Oh.
Wales, so we were talking to them months before they even hit.
Oh, that's cool.
Several months before they even managed to come down
Yeah.
here.
So when you talk to a big band like that, do you have to go through their like management team, the
sometimes,
PR team?
but usually the bands that we're covering are a little smaller than that,
Yeah.
and they might have a booking person or
Yeah.
a booking relations. Like
And the booking
sometimes we're
person
dealing
back
with Sub Pop or somebody like that,
Yeah,
and they'll
yeah.
have someone doing media relations
Right.
for a band like Quasi or something.
Yeah.
But usually it's just somebody kind of filtering and saying, are these people legit,
Yeah.
and should they even talk to whoever?
So I always wondered about like so when I go to like music venues to check out some bands and stuff like that, and I'm like rocking out on the front or just like scoping the scene out.
Yeah.
I always like notice like somebody at the bar, just like a quiet little nerd type of person, And then in the back of my head, I'm like, man, he's probably a magazine writer, or that's an A&R person.
It's quite possible. It's quite possible. I don't know about A&R folks anymore, but if it's me at a show, I'm kind of sitting towards the back, again, leaning against something, staying out of the way. I'm 6'5", so I gotta stay out of people's way. But and that's you. I'm usually standing where it sounds best. So But then we've got folks that do photography, and they get up in the pit.
Yeah, they got to get
the
best footage they can.
Whenever we can get that kind of access, one thing we learned as we're in our third year now. So one thing we learned is that live footage on the cover, especially, is absolutely, like, any posed photos. Those magazines didn't go very well. Like, they didn't move very well. But if it's a live shot, those move well. So we always try to get live shots of the
Right on.
It's really like we're really more about live music.
Yeah. I mean, I love live music. I love bands playing and instruments, all kind of weird instruments and things like that. When you guys or when your writers interview these bands, like, do they interview just the head singer of the band, or how can you?
It's chaotic.
Live people,
yeah, it's chaotic. I mean, like, some of our first interviews were just random, like 5 people in the band shouting out stuff, and it was just chaos. But certainly when we're doing like podcast interviews, we found it's better with like 1 or 2 people. Like, there's usually somebody that's kind of the leader, or
and
the most talkative.
Intercepts each other.
Yeah, and so you get a couple of people and you get them talking to each other, kind of back and forth, and that can be cool. But usually it's pretty. There's usually enough quiet people in the band.
Yeah, right.
Don't
bassist.
Yeah, they're just like
the drummers are usually
yeah. So usually there's somebody who'll speak up and kind of like lead the way.
Now, what is some of the craziest stories you heard from bands?
I don't know.
I mean, from what I hear, you and the co-owner of the magazine, you guys are both in a band, right?
Yeah, we're in 2 bands. So we're in a band called Loud Humans, which is a trio, and another band called Victory Hands, which is more of a big, like, post-rock, like, heavy kind of thing.
So, I mean, throughout the years, I know you've personally seen some things or been a part of some things, especially while you're rocking out on stage. But I know, like, how many bands have you guys interviewed so far in your 3 years of the business?
I don't know. Like, it's been, I mean, all the writers. I mean, I would say hundreds,
right?
At this. Yeah.
So, is there anything? Is there any particular story or like interview that sticks out to you?
Like the punk rock folks, especially the younger punk rock folks, they always have their, like, some crazy stories of like the house shows and stuff. Those are usually the ones
drug infused local shows.
Yeah, sort of, or just like drinking usually. Or just like, but things will get crazy there. We did a feature. It's not necessarily crazy, but it sounds crazier than it is probably. But it's probably pretty dangerous. There's a house called the Pyro House where they literally have pyro, fire and flames going off in the backyard while their bands are performing. So, that's a little dangerous. But,
I've seen a bunch of YouTube videos of people catching on fire by accident.
Yeah. So there's stuff like that. But house shows are usually kind of like the more crazy thing. There's a good big house show scene in Atlanta.
Well, what is one of your favorite music venues here in Atlanta?
I love the Earl. For bigger bands, I love the Tabernacle. Good shows coming there right now. 529's cool. There's like Bog Social, and there's a bunch of different clubs in town. We really like this place called Moonshadow that's opened up in Tucker, where you're from.
Moonshadow's been there for a long time.
Has it? Okay, well, we just recently got hip to them. There's also a little so there used to be this club in Atlanta that was sort of famous around the music crowd, at least, called Dottie's. Became Lenny's. Maybe by the time you were here, you might have not heard of Lenny's, but it was just an absolute dive bar. Yeah. So there's a new place called Ideal Sports Bar.
Oh, I heard about it. On the south side.
Yeah, down near Lakewood. Yeah. And it's pretty cool too. So there's that, and then there's all these, like I said, little house shows that are common. So there's a good scene.
One of my first ever rock and roll shows I ever went to, and this was like high school times, was the Masquerade.
Oh yeah.
And during that time, we used to have the upstairs was like heaven, and the downstairs was hell.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Underground Atlanta has been taken over now by clubs. So you've got the Masquerade that moved there. They have Heaven, Hell, and Purgatory, and they just opened. Really? Yeah, and so it's all Underground Atlanta now. It's all different rooms instead of being
that's cool. I gotta
levels.
Check it out.
Because they closed the Excelsior Mill where they used to be. But yeah, so if you go to Underground Atlanta, you got Heaven, Hell, Purgatory, and they opened up a new place called the Auditorium, I think. So they've got 4 rooms now, and then across from that, which is a pretty cool space, called Inner Space. So that's another small club. So there's like a whole scene of clubs
right in the underground.
In Underground Atlanta now too.
That's crazy how that changed. I didn't even know that because last time I went to the underground was probably about a couple of years ago, like right post COVID. I went to go see an art show by Banksy there, and because it's been so abandoned throughout the years, a lot of people came in and started just doing art deco stores, and it just became like a museum spot.
Yeah, it's a big art community there because the city is actually funding some of that.
Yeah, I think they're just giving us grants out for free.
There's grants.
Just need somebody here.
There's grants for all kinds of art stuff. So then that's always a good association with art and music always kind of goes together. So that's been cool for the scene as well. Yeah,
nice.
And then of course there's the Star Bar, which has been around forever.
Star Bar, shout out to Star Bar.
So shout out to Dusty and them.
Dusty Booze in there.
Yeah, so they have kept that going, and that almost closed on us. So that was cool to keep that going.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how it's been open for so many years, and then during COVID, in a lot of spots during COVID were shut down.
It's amazing that the clubs that lasted made it through that.
And I think a big part of that is the local community as well. That is their favorite spot. That's where they go. If people are in trouble, they try to help out. It's a great community thing.
It's amazing. I think I don't know the story on this, but I think I heard the 529 kind of survived on T-shirt sales and stuff like that. So it's amazing that they made it through, and I'm glad they did. It's really crucial to the community. But that was one of the reasons we started the magazine, was because print also died at that time too. Yeah. So we just
everything is online. You can't go to your local space.
And even the online blogs and stuff started kind of dying down. So we were like, okay, there's a void here, and we need to step in.
I think you guys came in at the perfect time. You're right. Online magazines, everybody just stopped going to all these websites and everything. And
who wants to look? Who wants to read it on their phone?
Right. And there was a big void of just where are the magazines?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's important. It's difficult to do.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's not profitable or anything, but it's a high cost kind of thing. The only reason we're able to do it is because Kip has his own print shop.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of community support. We pay our writers, we pay our photographers, but otherwise, everybody's kind of donating their time and keeping it going, and it's been a great community effort.
Now, with you paying for your writers and everything, how do you get advertisers for the magazine?
That's all Kip, man. He's great at like he just
Well, he's been
knows.
doing printing for such a long time.
Yeah, and he's got some relationships through doing printing, but it's also like local vendors are hungry for
Yeah,
something. I mean, especially when they're speaking to that community, like
right,
coffee houses, places like Victory Sandwich Shop,
right.
and all those places,
Record stores.
breweries, record stores. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, when they want to speak to that community, yeah. In Atlanta and Athens, I mean, you got Flagpole in Athens, but
yeah,
other than them, we're kind of the only thing going as far as that. And we're pretty cheap for 5,000
yeah.
for a distribution of
You
5,000.
guys
So
do
it's
5,000 magazines every month.
every month.
Dang.
Yeah, and
And
distribute it.
how
It's
do you
go
distribute them every month?
well. We're physically driving them around.
Wow.
Like Kip does a good hunk
You
of
guys
it.
got like the paper boys just throwing it out on their
Yeah, kind of. We're running them around. Like I'll handle the South Side. We have like Jeffrey DeBaser's mutual friend. He's doing a bunch, and we have folks
Shout out
doing
to
the North
Jeff.
Side. And then Athens. So but we actually have them going up to like South Carolina and Chattanooga
Yeah.
and down to Savannah, Georgia. We have like
Yeah.
a little
Got a good community
community
of
around
fans and stuff
Savannah.
like that.
There's some bands from
And you just
Savannah
mail
that
them a box and they'll push
yeah,
it
and we
around.
have just folks that'll take them out and
Yeah.
distribute them among 2 or 3 places, and it's been great.
Nice. So if you're watching this show from outside of Atlanta or Athens or around the Southeast, you can also get these magazines on recordplug.com,
Yeah, you
right?
can subscribe. Just
Subscribe.
shoot us an email,
Yeah.
and we do subscriptions. So we
Yeah.
got people, we send them out to all over the world. Actually,
Support local bands, support local artists, support local magazines. And I mean,
yeah,
if you're a rock and roll fan and you love live music and instruments, I would definitely recommend you guys subscribing to this magazine so you could see, the music that's coming out of the Southeast, not only Southeast, I mean, throughout the world, really. But
yeah.
it's incredible how a lot of people say rock and roll is dead or died out. But over the last like couple of years, like it has just imploded with so many bands.
I mean, I say it all the time, but we've got a list of literally 100 bands who have recently released music that we haven't gotten to yet, just in Atlanta and Athens. So, and that's not even including the bands who are just starting to record their first records and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So there's a whole list of another 200 of them probably. So yeah, the music scene is crazy busy, and that doesn't even get into all like the bedroom guys and girls that are doing like just music in their houses and stuff,
Right.
and don't have a full band, don't
Yeah.
tour. There's just an immense amount of great music out there. So,
Yeah, it really is. And so, how do let me try to get this question right. With all of these bands that's coming out,
mhm.
how do you decipher? Okay, these are a one album band because they're gonna, how bands are. A lot of them break up over the years, or even
Sure.
after one song. How can you decipher? Like, okay, we have to interview this band because not only are they good now, but I see a future in them.
I mean, a lot of that just comes from like how consistent they are with playing out
Yeah,
usually, and what kind of like surge it. We're kind of like talk is going around between other bands. A lot of times, a lot of the other bands will hip us to bands in the community that
yeah,
we're not aware of. Like Hail Gale is a great example of that. They're a trio, a punk rock trio that other bands told us about. So we were like, okay, we need to go check them out. So
yeah,
so that'll happen sometimes, but you don't know. I mean, like especially with kids in their 20s making music, they could break up in a year. You don't know.
right.
And it doesn't really matter as long as they're doing good stuff. The thing is that there will always be a thread they'll go to some other band, and
Yeah,
you'll end up with 3 bands out of one band that broke
yeah,
up that everybody
yeah.
loved.
Like I need a drummer, I need a guitarist.
Yeah.
Our band is not doing anything right now. Somebody just had a baby.
Right,
everybody
right.
just shifts around.
I don't
But I think
know.
that's a great thing too. It keeps the community strong and it keeps the musicians working on their craft.
Yeah, and it's a small community in truth. I mean, everybody kind of knows everyone else. So you'll get bands like there's a band called Gorgeous Beast in Atlanta now that came from a band that broke up that was making some headway in Athens, but one of the members had health concerns and stuff,
Yeah,
and so it kind of fell apart. So I mean, there's always like threads that lead to
yeah.
new
Yeah, and
opportunities.
I mean, you'll see that even with some veteran bands where
Yeah,
somebody doesn't want to be part of the band, they move on,
sure.
they hire somebody else, they just replace them, but the band name stays the same
Yeah,
because the fans know that band.
sure.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
Yeah. Golly, 3 years. 3 years. So
Yeah.
that's 36.
36 issues, and this will be our fourth. We're going into our fourth year now.
Mhm.
And we're putting on shows. We just did our first like really big event, which was a collaboration with this guy named Dave Rayleigh and Blog Social, where we did the
Oh, the corn dog festival.
corn dogorama, which was
Corn
like
dogorama.
which was a classic Atlanta
Yeah.
staple.
Yeah.
Certainly through the '90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
That
How,
went,
was
went
that? How
away.
did that event turn out?
It went really well. We probably didn't need to do 3 days, but it was grueling. It was just so hot. We also did it at the worst time of year because it was really hot.
Middle of summer.
Yeah, but Saturday went fantastic.
Yeah.
So we'll probably do something similar to that next year. I don't know, but so trying to do like things that are community driven. That was a nonprofit support kind of thing for this local thing called Upstart. But yeah, that was a cool thing too.
How many bands did you guys have lined up?
I think there was like 20 something.
Yeah,
30.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So when you how much do you think your magazine helps these bands out?
I imagine it does. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like we certainly like when bands get the cover, which is a random thing we do. We don't give like fame. One of the things we set out to do is like not to give a national artist the cover, and we'll make it like the local bands. So when they get the cover,
these are no known bands.
Kind of like usually they're known locally, but they're not like they're not famous.
Right.
They're not. Yeah, they're up and comers.
Yeah.
And so we'll have like there's She He He, there's Gorgeous Beast, there's a band called the Melts that's been around for decades, but they're just a local Atlanta band.
Yeah. And I never heard of any of these bands.
Their Melts are great.
Yeah.
Melts are playing with my band actually September 31st at Moonshadow.
Nice. So Moonshadows is a great. I like the way their stage is like long.
I haven't played there yet. I'm excited to do it though.
It's a really cool spot, and they have good food, good drinks. You can smoke in there, and
it looked like it was a nice
little pool table. Like I like it. I think like you said, you've never heard of Moonshadows before, and some of the places you talked about, I never heard of before.
Oh yeah.
So I think there's a lot of local dive bars that have bands performing there.
Oh sure.
Nobody just knows about in Atlanta. And I think that the great thing about the community and like your magazine and stuff like that is you get to explore and discover new bands, new venues, new cool things all locally in town, and it brings people here, and it makes people just explore more.
I mean, so we do a lot of like festival things where we'll have a booth sitting out and have our magazines out, and people will come by and talk to us and stuff. And just over the last 3 years, we don't do it as much as we did in the early days, but we'll be sitting around on like fake AstroTurf and just sitting out in lawn chairs and talking with folks, and it's kind of funny. But they'll come up and they'll be like, "Man, I didn't even really know there was much of a scene going on anymore, and now I'm fully involved in it. I'm going to shows like every other week." Yeah. So, I mean, it's important, I think, that people realize that Atlanta is a commuter town.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what's going on, you're not going to go out and like search for it.
Everybody thinks that Atlanta is just a hip hop town. I mean, hip hop is big here.
Here's one thing that I would say. I'm a huge hip hop fan, and we try to feature as much hip hop as we can in the magazine, actually, especially if they're also performing live, But there's not much of an underground hip hop scene in Atlanta, though. Yeah. It's all like, major label, bigger acts and stuff. There's a bigger hip hop scene in Athens, underground hip hop scene in Athens, Georgia.
You'll be surprised. I used to have a TV show called Severe Entertainment, and we used to feature hip hop artists.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well,
and you'll be surprised. There's such a huge underground scene here.
Hook us into them then, because I
don't mess with hip hop anymore. I think hip hop has just gone way too off-grid for me lately. Like, there's too much violence, too much drug use. It has just gone off-grid. I like good hip hop. I like the Outkast. I like Nas. I like good hip hop.
Boom bap.
And there is a lot of good artists here in Atlanta that I've seen throughout the years, especially at this event. It's every Sunday. It's called Bonfire ATL. You ever heard of that?
No.
So they actually do it at the they did the last one at the Underground. But Bonfire ATL is They pick out a local spot somewhere in Atlanta, and they set up a huge bonfire.
Awesome.
There's skaters there. There's
They're doing
vendors
like
there.
cypher kind of
Yeah,
stuff and all.
ciphers, some bands, all kind of
Nice.
cool stuff, man.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that I mean, we'd love to cover more of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. We've had a couple of folks from Athens who there's like a little Athens community of hip hop up there. Excuse me. And then the Family Orchestra and some like kind of the weirder, quirkier hip hop that's like going on in Atlanta that we've featured. But I'd love to know more about that. It certainly has evaded us.
Right. Oh, what do you think about country singers? Do you guys feature country singers?
Yeah, we don't really. But I mean, there's not a huge. So there's some like alt country-ish kind of stuff and more like southern. I would call it more southern rock kind of stuff that we get into. Like, there's a band called Pre-Dawn Pours and stuff like that. That's kind of more like on the Wilco side of things, or Uncle Tupelo. So a little bit in that direction, but we don't like get too much into like certainly not bluegrass and things like that. We haven't really gone down that route. There is definitely a community though around what's that club in Decatur? That Eddie's Attic.
Oh yeah, Eddie's Attic over there across the street from the courthouse.
Yeah. So they definitely have like a scene going, but mostly we're kind of underground rock, punk, metal.
But just like you said, like country. Well, here in the South, it's more like southern rock type of thing. You know, So we featured a couple of cool bands: Andrea and Mud, Sean Thomason, Sid Jordan, and it feels like it's like southern music, but it's just it has a more like you could tap your toes to it.
Sure. Like for me, my taste personally is just extremely broad. I like jazz and tropicalia and hip hop and like the craziest metal and all kinds of stuff. So to me, it's just is it good? Are they doing something interesting? Are they in it for the right reasons? That's part of our like. Are they just like going around? I mean, there's a few artists that if they came to town and they're on the country verge of things. If they came to town, I'd be happy to cover them because I know they're hardcore and serious.
Yeah,
and,
some of them are definitely,
and not they're just like banging it out and playing little shows and doing doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, but so how would bands get onto your magazine?
Just so there's not really a process. Usually, like I said, the writers will bring it in. We'll get submissions.
Well, who are the writers? Like how?
Well,
people guys just have random.
People just like submit ideas. We have an email.
It's a top secret.
No, not really. No. So we have an email. It's just submissions@recordplug.com, and so we'll have. I mean, we have over the years we've developed a cache of writers that are real reliable. And they stick to our editorial kind of guidelines and stuff.
So would they, when you get the email, would the bands try to send you like an EPK or?
The bands will often, and we'll if it's somebody that we think might be interested in it, we'll send it around to the writers, say, hey, is anybody interested in this? But usually the writers kind of have their own relationships that they've developed. So I would say if you know somebody that if you're a band that would like to be covered and one of the writers that has written for us previously, that's probably your best choice. That's probably your best bet. Is just it's like everything else. It is not in a bad way, but it is who you know. It's all network.
Yeah. So
music community is all network.
In the magazine, do you guys have the writers at the end of every article?
Yeah, there's a byline for everybody.
Yeah.
Usually you'll see it like at the top.
Oh, this magazine is super cool. I like the paper on this thing. It feels really good.
Kip is real hardcore with the printing, man.
And
it's all recycled, eco-friendly inks, and colors are real good.
It feels old school.
Check out the this one here is like insane. There's your moon shadow.
Cool.
Hold on, I think there we go. Like
that's cool.
That's
a cool picture.
Le Cebu Grand, who is on, they're a local band that just got signed to Kill Rock Stars.
Oh, so nice.
They're doing killer.
So you guys feature bands before they're signed and everything, and some of them do get signed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say because of us, but I mean, we just happen, right place, right time. And we've had a couple of bands that like got the cover and then suddenly got a nice gig.
Yeah.
So we
do
hopefully
you
it
see
helped.
bands getting a big head and start traveling and not even
I don't see how you could.
Kudos.
I don't see how you could be a musician in this day and age and get a big head because everything is against you. So like,
I mean, you'll be surprised, man. Like,
I know they exist, but like, like I said, we're kind of underground.
Yeah.
Like we focus on underground music, and everybody's usually really, really cool. To the point, like even the bands that are like my heroes that I would have been really nervous to interview. I've let like Jeffrey do some interviews for me because I'm like, I'm too close to this. This is my favorite lyricist or my favorite singer or whatever. He's like, I don't want to just fan out. I want somebody to do a good interview. So I had to have him do it instead of me. And I would watch the video back and go, dude, that was the nicest person in the world. I should have just done it. Stuff like that. So like everybody's been incredibly cool.
Yeah, and it's hard when you meet somebody that you like idolized or like listened to for years. Like in your head, you're like, this guy is the greatest person in the world.
Yeah, and they're gonna be irritated by me or whatever. They don't have time for me.
And in real life, they're just like regular people, like.
And especially in the punk rock and metal community, where you think people are like going to be like really kind of hard to deal with. Yeah. And they're the nicest people in the world. They just salt of the earth kind of thing. I mean, we had a band, a heavy band called Cherubs that came down to my studio, and we did the podcast with them. And they're just like,
when you say heavy, you mean like metal?
More like Chicago, like underground, Unwound. If you're familiar with the bass player for Unwound, plays in that band.
That's cool.
Just really like hardcore, heavy kind of stuff, and they're the sweetest guys. So
I think there's always a difference between what you see on TV or what you see on stage,
or what you assume.
What you assume.
From the
people
music
backstage, they're over there drinking tea, having coffee or whatever. And then effing themselves up, and then they hit the stage or it's a job. Yeah. It becomes a job. Like when the guy goes to the studios, they try to be as professional as they can. Now I've been to some studios, and I mean it's just been a complete mess sometimes.
Oh, sure.
Too much drinking, too much smoking. Like the job can't get done. Everybody's pissed.
I came up through the studio system, and I saw plenty of that. Yeah. But usually that was in tandem with more major label acts or bands who were signed to a major label and were like trying to work their way up. I don't see a lot of that in the underground.
Let me ask you about this. So you deal with a lot of local bands and stuff like that, and I do as well. But recently, I've came across this band. I'm not going to say their name or anything like that. But because, so on Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that, you see a lot of people paying for, like sponsorship, promotion, which is all good. I don't mind that at all, So, and
you mean like them buying ads or somebody?
So just buying ads. I mean, local bands do it. Everybody does it. I do it, and, to try to get more followers and stuff like that, throw a couple of bucks in the pot. I mean, you have to advertise. It's a business.
Sure.
All right. So in this particular way, so sometimes, I'm scrolling and like I see a local band, I click on them, I follow them. Oh, they look cool. Let me see what's going on, blah, blah, blah. So with this particular band, I clicked on them. They had tens of thousands of followers and everything like that. And so I sent them a message, and they sent me straight to a PR person. Now this particular band is a Southern band, but they sent me to a PR person. So I emailed the PR person because I'm curious now. They have these followers. Let me see what's going on. I emailed the PR person. The PR person is from New Jersey. So I mean, I know a lot of records.
Totally disconnected from the scene.
Disconnected from the scene, but it's okay. So I'm still like, okay,
that's a red flag.
It's still a business type of thing, right? So then I do some more research. So I'm like, man, so they have a PR person. They paid all this money for advertising. So then I'm doing my own research. Okay, and I Googled them, and when you Google them, they have their whole little PR thing when they come up, stuff like that. But then I go to find their music, because they had they were just releasing a music video, or they were just releasing a single. That's why you've seen all the promotions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I go to check out their music, and they only had 2 songs
2 singles.
2 singles.
Yeah.
You know, so I got curious. I'm like, wow, like,
how do you have that many?
followers,
that big of a following?
I mean, how do you have such a PR person and you only have 2 singles out? You know,
vanity metrics. Yeah, they're buying those.
They're trying to buy in, right?
Yeah, and
but who's buying? So is that a record label that's buying, or is this the individual band that?
Sometimes people that come from money,
Mm-hmm.
trust fund kids, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll have like some investment behind it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is completely out of my will. Like, it's not interesting to me at all. Like, if you can't establish a track record, I don't even like the whole progression towards releasing singles, unless you're talking about like a 2-song 7-inch or something like that. Like, I like physical media personally. If you're not going to do physical media, at least give me an EP. Give me something substantial so I can like kind of vet you as a band.
Yeah.
And then singles are. I understand it because everybody's so focused on Spotify and stuff, and Spotify only cares about singles. But I don't like the fact that so much of the music community is kind of like fall into what like this corporate entity wants us to do. I mean,
it's the music industry of it, right?
Yeah. Like that like nobody cared about like stats like they do now. Like, even when we had stats and Billboard and stuff like that, like underground bands did. Now everyone cares. Like, how many monthly listeners do you have on Spotify and all that stuff? It's just absolute junk.
And what's crazy is like some of the bands that we feature and you feature, I mean, amazing albums. I mean, amazing work of art. Music is just like different, hip, something new, and it barely gets any recognition.
Two listeners. Two listeners on it are like 0 stats. Yeah. And I mean, like, that I've been playing in bands for 30 years, and like the most popular bands that I'm currently in still, even 15, 20 listeners a month, maybe. That's not why we're doing it. And we know we're making, like, most all the bands that we feature, we know we're making fringe music. We know we got like a select audience, but they're very, very like into it. Like when you go to shows around Atlanta and see these bands, there might be 75 people there, but they're like hardcore into what's going on, and there's energy there, and it's not like formulated. It's not fake.
So what do you think about bands putting in their own money to like advertise?
Do what you got to do, man. I would say like it's usually a bad investment. Like, if you're thinking about it from a business perspective, you're making almost nothing from streaming, like literally 0.003 cents or whatever.
I mean, streaming, I wouldn't go through. I mean, the streaming route is like just hoping you catch a shark. I mean, by that I mean saying like your song goes viral or gets picked up by a movie or something like that.
I mean, I've run ads for my own, like, personal bands and stuff, and you'll spend like $50 or whatever, and maybe you'll get like a couple of sales on Bandcamp or something, which is nice because that's like we're selling like LPs,
and I mean,
vinyl.
Like, so some of these that $50 goes to advertising to people that never heard of you.
Sure, yeah. If you could do like really targeted advertising, I would never pay to boost post or anything like that because that's just wasting money. But if you're doing like really targeted advertising, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't. I hate to see bands waste money on vanity things, vanity metrics. And with social media, it's funny. Like, you talked about like this band you were talking about, who I don't know who it is, but they built up all these followers probably by buying them, right? So they're probably a lot of bots in there. But now the social media has changed to where it's all like algorithmic anyway. So it doesn't matter how many followers you have. So you have all these like Instagram influencers and stuff who have built up like millions of followers that can't capitalize on it, can't like monetize it at all now, because now the For You algorithms are just like giving you things that you're interested in. It doesn't matter who you're following anymore.
Right.
So TikTok kind of changed all of that because they changed the way the algorithm works. So now you've got, Instagram influencers who spent a lot of money building up to like 1-point-something million followers, and they can't like monetize it at all because their content's not reaching anybody. And you can tell. You can look at what they post, and there'll be like 2 likes, 3 likes on it, even though they got 1 million followers. So I think it's a waste of money to go into that. I think the best thing you can do as a band is just engage with people on social media, like get to know people in the scene. It's all who you know. Play shows, play house shows. You know,
connect, network.
Yeah. I mean, like, and even bad shows. Like, we played shows where like maybe 5 people showed up, but the 5 people that were there ended up getting us shows like 2 years later.
Nice.
That you're like, hey, we remember when you came up to so and so, and you know, like, and that would be like 100 people at that show, right? You know, so I mean, like, you know, you just never know how it's going to all play out. You know?
I always say your network is your network. So the more people you meet out there, the more tours you do. I mean, you really got to hit the streets. I feel like at this day and age, because I think so many people are just tired of being on their phones and scrolling and everything like that. But when you go to a live show and you meet real people and you meet these real bands, and I mean local bands, when they get off stage, hey, they'll hang out with you, buy you a beer, they'll buy you a beer. You know what I'm saying? Buy a shirt. You know, you can have
thrilled to talk to you.
Yeah, thrilled to talk to you, talk about their music, what you got going on, what they got going on. So it's an incredible thing to meet people in person. There's still alive people here. Don't believe that everything that AI tells you.
Yeah, and from Record Plug's perspective, I mean, I think the most we've ever spent on advertising was $50 total, and that was just like when we first launched. I was like, we need to get some Facebook. We need to let people know
that the magazine.
And I felt, and honestly, it was a waste of $50. Like we didn't need to do it. So everything that we've got as far as like a following and all has just been completely organic and surprising to me. Like, I'm sorry, I hit your mic. Surprising to me, somebody who like comes from like, I do social media stuff and do marketing stuff, and I was like, this is going to be a slog to get people to pay attention to us, and it was the exact opposite. So,
well, I think the incredible thing is like, say you feature a band, right? That band has 50 fans, 100 fans, 1,000 fans. Now the band posts that were in this magazine. Their friends, their fans, their family. You know, they get the magazine and.
What's Record Plug?
Yeah.
They follow a thread.
You know how it is like back in the day, like say you get a magazine, you read through a magazine, you pass it to your neighbor or you pass it to a friend, you know, like, hey, check this out, you know?
That's what a scene is, you know, and like, because everything's so virtual now, it's hard to develop a scene. But I mean, if you think about it, like in the 90s where I came up, you know, everybody went to the club or they went to the record store and they kind of met people. Like as you're flipping through records, you would talk to people, and that's how you found out about what was going on. And, or, you know, the clerks would tell you like, oh yeah, you need to go check out this show if you like that. That doesn't happen as much anymore unless you're on social media talking to people or an email or whatever. The resurgence of email newsletters is pretty crazy right now. There's a whole lot of music newsletters out there that are awesome. And that's something I didn't, like, that seemed dead to me until recently.
You just brought me something to do, because anytime I get like so many emails, I'm like, oh, spam.
Yeah, but I mean, well, Substack is a really, that's the thing that kind of woke me up to it, is like, and I've got my own, of course, like little music newsletter where I write stuff about mostly production stuff, but there's a community that developed around that, and there are a bunch of great little like kind of music bloggers who went, okay, social media is not working for me anymore. Or maybe I'll still do it, but I don't want to like put everything into TikTok or everything into Instagram Reels.
So, I mean, and you really can't, you know, it's not like they allow you so many characters or.
Well, you don't get any, like you can, so the people that were getting like thousands of views on TikTok now are getting 200, you know, because it's just got flooded with so much content. So the email newsletters are great because, you know, people always are going to have their email.
And even though your numbers might be small, you're reaching organic people.
Right.
You know?
And like, what is 1,000 viewers on social media versus, you know, you got like 50 or 100 people who actually read. You can like see that they actually opened it and read it and clicked on things. And like, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So, and that's similar, you know, it's like things kind of are falling back to like print and like, things like, you know, physical media, cassettes. Like people putting out cassettes is a big thing.
I was just a buddy of mine was telling me that last year record vinyl sales outsold anything that's out there.
Yeah, and it's increased by a certain percentage every year for like the last 10 years. So vinyl's tough. I mean, we do vinyl. Like I run a vinyl label, but vinyl is expensive to do, so it's like out of the reach. Cassettes are not. Cassettes are real cheap. I think CDs are coming back. Like I think you'd be surprised. I think CDs are going to make a comeback because they're just so cheap to make.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean
you
they
can,
were always cheap to make, you know,
and people are like, well,
but
you
it's so
know,
easy to bootleg too.
yeah, but you know, if you're getting nothing per stream, it might
Yeah,
like
yeah, it doesn't
streaming
hurt you.
services are essentially bootlegged anyway.
Right, right, right,
So
right.
you're not making money off of it for
Yeah,
sure. So as a band,
yeah.
so like anything but to have something physical in somebody's hands, people just
What
appreciate that
I,
more.
I like the vinyls, the work of art that people
Yeah.
put on them. I think that's like the most when you pull something out, you're like, man, this looks cool.
And
You know?
bands are doing their own zines.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Like bands are like making their own like zine for an album.
yeah,
So that's the physical thing.
yeah,
And they'll attach their download code from Bandcamp to
yeah,
the zine. You buy the zine for $3 or whatever
yeah,
at their shows, and they've got their own little like, you know, their articles and stuff they've written, their
yeah,
perspective, their lyrics are
yeah.
in there.
Everything about them.
Yeah, and then you go and you scan the code and you download the music and
Yeah,
you got it on your, you know, iPod or whatever you got, you
yeah,
know, computer, and you can still stream it. It's still available on, you know,
yeah.
the streaming
So,
services.
so nowadays, I feel like it's more of a balance between technology and
Yeah,
the actual, you know, walking in the streets and like listening to music.
yeah,
Because I feel like for I don't know, maybe 10, 15 past years, everything has been so technology driven
yeah,
to where things like CDs have been drawn out, MP3s have been drawn out, like everything is
yep.
streaming. And because everything is streaming, that means nobody's getting residuals off of it, you know?
No, no.
But if you have something physical, you can literally hit the street and sell that physical copy or,
Now
you know,
I'll say this as someone who runs a record label and has had multiple bands and has worked with other bands and stuff. If you're a music fan, the absolute best thing you can do is pay for digital downloads. Like
yeah,
Bandcamp is wonderful because that costs the band the least amount of
yeah,
money, and they get to retain the most amount of money from
yeah,
that, and you get, you know, a high quality track from it. It's not
yeah,
like an MP3 stream. You can get like, you can download lossless, you know,
yeah.
quality music and stuff. If you're looking to support music, go directly to the bands and buy digital downloads from them
When
because
you, when
pretty
you,
much everybody does that.
let me ask you this: like, so when you do a digitally download, right? Does
Hmm.
it go to your like I know I have an iPhone, so it goes straight to my
You can put it on your iPhone, yeah.
yeah, it goes straight to my
Just on your hard
iTunes.
drive, yeah.
Yeah, but for Android users, like let's say you download it, does it go into like your files or does
You
it go
can,
into the
yeah, they
media
have
player?
similar thing. You can just put it on your media player, and
Yeah,
you know, there's different ones for Android. I'm not an Android user, so I'm not familiar with
yeah,
what.
me either. That's why I was
Yeah,
asking.
but I know there are.
Yeah,
People, especially in fact, Android's probably got more options, you know,
yeah,
available to you as far as different kind of players. But yeah, that's the best way. I mean, especially like if you consider yourself a fan,
yeah,
you know, either buy physical merch or buy the digital
yeah.
download. Yeah.
Show some appreciation
Yeah, and
for
that's why I like CDs
yeah,
because you can rip them. You know,
yeah,
you can take a CD and you can buy it. You have physical
yeah,
artwork and everything
yeah,
there, liner notes, all that stuff. You rip it, put it on
yeah.
your computer, and you put it on the shelf. And if you lose that digital version of it, you just pull it down again and rip it
I don't
again.
know if you ever seen this, but a couple of people I know they're in the hip hop community. But what they started doing is making USBs, you know,
Yeah.
and they would package them. They look like a
Yep.
DVD case, but when you open it up, it's a USB in it.
That is very cool, and I wanted to do the same thing, but when I priced it out, they're just about as much as
Yeah,
like doing anything else. So it was
yeah,
actually more expensive than CDs to
yeah,
do them. So like you can do a CD for like $1 a piece,
yeah,
basically $1 or two a piece.
yeah,
Those things are like $5 or $6 a piece.
yeah,
So what's cool though, I've seen some bands take their entire catalog and put them on the
yeah,
little thumb drive and then just sell the entire catalog to
yeah,
people. So if you have a lot of releases, that can be cool. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, for $30 you can have our entire collection.
Yeah, instead of buying five
Video,
CDs,
yeah, it could even have like videos and stuff
yeah,
on there. So
yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah, that's a cool concept. Like if you have it like a movie set or you know different
Yeah,
music videos, stuff like that. You know, but in my head, I was like, man, that's such a hassle. Like I can't
yeah,
just pop it into my car, or I can't
it
just
is.
like you know say I have friends around. You know, I had to put it in the computer, get it out of a computer, do all that
And that's why
before.
I think there's a place for streaming. You know,
Yeah,
I think if you can be on the streaming places, I think if you're a fan, you know, try to buy physical merch and digital downloads and
right.
stuff. Even if you're not going to like listen to them principally as your
Hmm.
main way, you can still stream stuff, and they're going to get a little money from that.
Yeah,
But at least you're supporting the
yeah, yeah,
band
yeah.
and you're helping.
Anything helps.
Yeah, and you know, there's only so many. How many favorite bands do you have? You know,
Yeah,
like there's only so many.
yeah,
You know, even if you're like a really voracious lover of music like me, there's, you know, few hundred bands in my lifetime that I've like really been dedicated to. So
I'm a big music lover myself, and a lot of times I don't even know the band's names or anything. Sometimes I don't even know the band's the songs, but I know the song. Like I listen to it, I'm like, I don't know this band, I don't know the name of the song, but man, I love this
and
song. Anytime it comes on the radio,
I think maybe that's a generational thing too, because I know you're a little bit younger than me, but like I'm the opposite. I'm like an absolute like stats nerd almost. It's almost like baseball cards to me. I was like, okay, who produced this? Like, where did they record it at? You know, like who was in the band at the time? What bands did they come from? Like, I'm looking at this like huge diagram of like, because I want to know if I like them, what influenced them. Maybe I'm missing out on something. You know, is there a band that was an influence of theirs that I'm not hip to?
Do you think that comes from your music background?
It's just being a music nerd, probably. Nerd. Like I was just always poring over liner notes of records and cassettes and stuff, and trying to figure all that stuff out. But
that's cool.
So that's kind of what we're trying to do with the magazine too.
So what's next for the Record Plug magazine?
We're just going to keep on keeping on, at least for another year or so, hopefully, and we'll see how it goes. We kind of have to it's an expensive process and time-consuming process, and we don't make any money off of it.
For it to be time-consuming, you guys drop them like every month.
Every month.
I don't like. It's hard for me to even fathom of dropping like a whole magazine in a month. I mean, the writers, the pictures,
it's crazy,
the scheduling. Even from like hitting the streets and dropping them off at local places. Like that is an intense schedule.
It is an intense schedule. I mean, basically it's a part-time job. And it's one of those things is like, as soon as we put one out, we're already working on the next issue kind of thing. So it's kind of a blur for us. I mean, sometimes I don't get to even read our own magazines for like 2 or 3 months, like sit down and actually read them because we're working on the next one. So that, but that's just part of the deal. But
so you guys have new bands on every issue.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the bands that have been on our TV show now, there's been in some of the issues.
Who have you had on that's been on Record Plug? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, we have. I think Ladrona's been on.
Oh, nice! I love them.
Solid State Radio, I think.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of.
He's does he also do some interviews with you guys?
Randy Michael.
Randy's done he's hosted for you.
He's actually a co-owner and producer now.
Oh, nice. Okay,
we do this whole show together. I do more of the media side of things, and he does more of the music, bringing the accents, stuff like that.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So it's just like you and Kip, But he's more of a musician. I'm more of a video guy.
Yeah. Producer too. He does a lot of production stuff.
Yeah. He does a lot of production stuff.
Yeah, they've been in the magazine. Ladrones are fantastic. That's Jeffrey DeBaser is a big fan of theirs, and is always heralding them. But that's cool, and that's part of the community thing. Like finding like who's doing all the little podcasts and things with and just like interacting.
It was crazy with Jeff DeBaser. So me and Jeff used to work at People TV a long time ago. And when we started this Now Dig This TV show, I invited him to the old studio because we just started to produce these. And right around that time, 3 years ago, 2021, he was like, "Hey, we got a couple of buddies. They're starting a magazine, And I was like, "Oh man, that's awesome. What are you guys doing?" Oh,
this is gonna fail. That was for everybody, including mine. That was my first thought.
But I mean, 3 years later, 36 episodes, monthly episodes,
36 issues.
Magazines. I mean, Playboy doesn't even do that anymore. I think they do not even Max and Magazine does that anymore. They do bi-monthly.
Yeah, there's not a lot of music magazines in print anymore nationally.
I mean, just nationally. It's just like it's a different market nowadays for magazine.
We definitely have a special thing. I mean, even like national acts that come through are just like, we don't see this in any other town that we go to. We don't see a lot of these kind of like local music magazines anymore than they used to be everywhere.
I'm really proud of Atlanta for that. I think that COVID really opened us up to being more locally and getting more out and meeting people, and connecting with people. And I think that the whole Southern hospitality thing is really cool. I mean, you can just walk up to anybody, walk up to the bands and just have a conversation. I mean, if you're cool, don't be a douche out there,
Yeah, people are super friendly. And it's all about like conversation and like figuring out like, you know, what everybody's into, and you talk long enough and you'll find out about something cool going on in town, and
Right on.
going up on in Athens, and you know, there's, you know, always great stuff happening.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Ryan, thank you very much for coming by.
Yeah, man. Good.
Record Plug Magazine. Check them out at your local record store.
Yeah, you can go to our website, and there's a page that has all the places that you can get them.
Recordplug.com.
Recordplug.com.
And if you are somewhere where you're not local, you can order it and they will mail you guys some copies.
Yep.
And if you are locally in your neighborhood and you want to get like maybe some bulk copies of these to push around your local record stores and stuff like that,
hit us up.
Yeah, hit them up.
Yeah, I'm Ryan at recordplug.com. You can hit Kip up at kip@recordplug.com if you want to submit stories. It's just submissions at recordplug.com.
Right on.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much again.
Thanks.
You're watching Now Dig This. Till next time.
See ya.